Well, thank you. Thanks for joining us. We're about how to take care of yourself while you're taking care of your creativity. I'm going to start by having everyone to introduce themselves, and we'll just start with the gal at the top.
I think that's me.
That is.
I'm Allie May. I write a lot of young adult fantasy, fairy tale retelling. This is my most recent one. My short story is about a witch who doesn't want to help people because they keep pestering her with their ridiculous requests. So she starts asking for ridiculous prices. And then this woman agrees to give away her firstborn child, and the witch doesn't actually want it. And then she gets stuck into it and has to figure out what to do next when she has this baby that she can't take care of. And it's a really fun adventure.
My name's Emily Martha Sorensen, and I write clean fantasy books. I have 51 published books in a whole bunch of different series. Black Magic Academy and Dragon's Egg are my most popular ones. My most recent is this one, the Zodiac Curse Quartet, which is about a curse based on the Zodiac. The whole idea of the Western Zodiac, it's used as a curse to mind control people and change their personalities against their will. And so everyone in it is fighting to keep their soul and to keep from being changed into somebody else.
Fantastic. My name is Troy Lambert. I am a freelance writer, author, editor, and owner of a small niche publishing company. I have over 26 books in print. I have about 5 more coming out this year, and I'm in the process of writing several others. This weekend, me and a couple other authors have gotten together. We're giving away 5 signed books. This is one of them. I'll drop the link in the chat later so you can enter that giveaway if you so choose. And I am currently at my standing desk in the upright position for an ergonomics panel. So
That's great. My name is Mike Lovins. I've been a commercial illustrator since 1993. I've done advertising, concept design, storyboards. Where I'm investing my time and effort is in my own career-owned comic book called We Go Anywhere. It's about corporate power in outer space. It's about a company that does business in outer space. And of course, I also work for a long time, a client doing storyboards and concept design as well. So that all keeps me pretty busy. Well, let's talk about ergonomics. It's important. How do you take care of yourself? You're spending probably 8-10 hours a day at your desk. And you've got deadlines that may require you to spend additional time. So let's just start first by, Allie, we'll start with you. What works for your workspace? What makes things work for you ergonomically?
It's interesting because I have a 3-year-old. And I'm a stay-at-home mom. I mean, my husband is also staying home right now, but he's usually locked up in what is supposed to be my office, but he's taken it over for the past year. And it kind of is interesting day by day to see how things go with me, because ergonomically, I'm usually sitting on the couch downstairs. I don't have a desk. I don't have good posture. I'm usually sitting all weird. And I've got a kid climbing on me, and I have 2 dogs climbing on me. And it's just kind of interesting. I kind of have to take it day by day. And with regard to taking care of me physically, this past year has been an adventure because I was diagnosed with compartment syndrome in my legs after having chronic pain for 12 plus years. I was finally diagnosed, and I had surgery last year, and it was kind of crazy, but it forced me to reevaluate what I was doing and to reevaluate how I took care of my body. And I can't, last year, I couldn't even walk up and down my stairs in my house. And now that I'm recovering from surgery, focusing on things like that has become my number one priority, even over my writing and over taking care of my kids. And we've had to go on a lot more walks. We've had to, I started doing yoga with my 3-year-old, and he thinks it's so much fun, and he literally just runs around me in circles while I'm trying to do it, or he's climbing on me while I'm doing it. The dogs too. It's always an adventure. But being forced to put my physical self first has then really affected my creativity in such a good way. Doing these things, I'm getting better sleep because I'm not in pain constantly throughout the night. And like right now I'm potty training my toddler. So I'm getting up off the couch every 30 minutes, and walking around, and, you know, all these little changes I've had to make that have really benefited me in a way that I didn't realize before.
Mm.
Go ahead. Next.
Okay, I'll go. About, I think it was about 6 years ago, I suddenly started getting shooting pain down my left arm, and I couldn't figure out why. That's a bit concerning. Wound up going to a chiropractor, who I think I went to a doctor first, and he told me to go to a chiropractor. And the chiropractor took some x-rays and discovered that my posture had done some permanent damage. It's funny because as a kid, I cared a lot about posture, but I got lazy as I got older. And specifically, the problem was in my neck. I had been doing this too much. And I had to adjust everything in my life, because part of it, you see, is that I like to draw. And I was drawing in a sketchbook all the time. The sketchbook was usually on my lap. So I was doing this all the time, which is super, super bad for your neck. Your neck is supposed to have a curve in it. Mine was completely straight. And he said, "You have degenerative arthritis that you have caused by doing this. We need to fix it." And so I spent several months going in 3 times a week to be in traction for an hour. And what that means is they strap all this stuff to you, and you have this giant big weight on the back of your neck, pulling your neck back like that really hard. It was like 20 pounds by the end of it. It was very uncomfortable. And he also gave me a thing I had to sleep on. It was called a Deneral, to try to reshape my neck, to get the bone in the right shape again. And after that experience, I've been a lot more careful. It was thousands of dollars. And he was a really good chiropractor, by the way. I've heard bad stories about chiropractors since then. This one is actually a licensed physiotherapist. I'm getting it wrong, but you know, somebody who helps someone after accidents. He's actually licensed for that and everything. Anyway, he was fantastic. And so one of the alterations I made, I was sleeping on 2 pillows because I found it uncomfortable to sleep on one, because if I would roll over onto my side, my head would be like that, and then I'd wind up with, you know, sore neck. I wound up getting a neck pillow instead and sleeping on that, which was much, much better for my neck. Kept it in the right position. I wound up deciding I needed to do something about my computer screen, because it was about there, and it needs to be like that. It needs to actually be above my head, so that I just automatically, this is right now I'm looking at my laptop. Right now I'm looking at my desktop screen. You can see it's above me. I had discovered years before that when I had my keyboard up at table height, it would make my wrists hurt, probably the beginning of carpal tunnel. Fortunately, I was wise enough to fix that. I started putting my keyboard on my lap, which made a really big difference. My mouse as well. I also use my mouse left-handedly because I draw and write with my right hand, and that way I don't overuse one hand. If my left hand gets really, really sore from clicking the mouse and using the scroll wheel all day, I can still use my right hand to write and draw. I also use my left hand to eat. I use my left hand for everything except writing and drawing, basically, because it works out better that way. Besides, I've always not so secretly wanted to be ambidextrous. It's sad I'm not. finally, what I wound up doing was I bought a standing desk, which has an attachment. I'm going to show you. I don't think I can. Okay, I have it. It has this arm underneath that my keyboard goes on, and it can swivel around. I can adjust it as much as I want. The mouse is on there as well. It is a desk that can raise and lower, and I bought a desk treadmill. And I usually walk on my desk treadmill anywhere from 4 to 8 hours a day, usually in one stretch. I've even gone as long as I think the longest I've ever gone was 16, but I have gone that long when I was really absorbed in writing a book, because I decided that what I really, really, really needed, because I was getting really fat. Thank you for the pregnancies, kids. I decided that what I needed was exercise that I didn't notice I was doing. I needed momentum because I don't like exercise. It's not fun. The thing about a desk treadmill is if I'm busy writing, I forget that my legs are moving and I don't even notice. And 10 hours can pass and it's like, oh yeah, I exercised this whole time. And yeah, so that works extremely well for me. So that's what I do ergonomically. I make sure my neck is in the right position. I can make sure my hands are in the right position, not too high up. Too low down doesn't actually seem to be that big of a problem. If it's lap height or slightly above is fine. And yeah, I make sure I sleep in the right position too. I'm very careful about a lot of things now. I've had to become so.
Definitely plenty to talk about. Brad, you talked about the standing desk. Tell us how you decided to get one and what kind of a benefit it's been to you.
Who's that? That for me?
Yourself, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, I decided a few years ago, so I had kind of a regular desk, but I decided I needed to stand more. I knew it would be better for me, but also there's some hazards to standing desks, or can be, potential hazards to standing desks. So I got one, I kept looking for one, I eventually found one on sale. That's actually the story of my chair too, is I hate paying full price for anything. So I don't know what that's really all about. But I walked into an Office Depot, found this desk on sale. It raises and lowers to pretty much any height I want. It has different settings. I also have a keyboard drawer with my keyboard underneath the kind of like you were talking about, the arm underneath. I have a keyboard drawer underneath that I can move in and out. I can, to a certain extent, I can tilt it one way or the other. So that my hands are comfortable. And usually when you're at a standing desk, you actually want your keyboard to be a little bit lower so that all the pressure isn't on your shoulders if your keyboard is up too high. Because you can start to get what's called frozen shoulder, which is just another one of the lovely writer hazards along with carpal tunnel. But I've typed for years, and I always use keyboards that are fairly ergonomic as well. And I'm really conscious about where my armrests on my chair are, those type of things. And where my standing desk is, so how I can use that basically to when I'm standing up so that my posture is still good, because the danger when you stand up, if you have posture problems and you slouch anyway, which I do, then eventually when you're standing, you start to slouch the same way you do when you're sitting. And so you have to just be really cognizant of that. And I have a special pad that I stand on so that your feet don't get tired. Because if you just stand on bare floor, that can cause you just as many problems as sitting. So if you sit wrong, you can have problems with your posture. If you stand wrong, you can have problems with your posture. I also use like an ergonomic mouse. And you can see this thing that's kind of, it's kind of one of those funky on the side things, so that it doesn't put my hand down in that awkward position. For when I'm doing spreadsheet work and stuff like that I do that's related to the freelance stuff that I do. And then I actually have several screens too for the exact same reason, but screen height is also very important. And then I have glasses that are designed for computers. They filter blue light. If I wear these glasses all day as opposed to my regular glasses, my eyes are much less tired. And I also use a program that's called Flux. And Flux basically changes the color light of your screen throughout the day so that you're not staring at the same color screen all day long. So that helps too. I once did not use Flux on a computer. It was about the worst 90 seconds of my life. So I got it installed really quick, and it worked really well.
So it's making a difference in every
huge difference in everything. That and the right chair. If you're going to sit all day, the right chair is really important. And I'm a tall guy. I'm 6'1", and I'm kind of big shouldered. And so I'd find chairs that just didn't quite fit. And then I was in the same place in Office Depot, turned around, walked around this corner, sat in a chair. I was like, this chair actually feels pretty good. I turned around, looked at the tag, and it said, big and tall chairs. And I was like, they have big and tall chairs? Who knew? And so then I started looking for that particular type of chair. And it makes a huge difference. Huge difference.
Chairs definitely make a huge difference. After the chiropractor, I started overcompensating in how I sat. And then I started getting back pain and wound up discovering that you do not want to lean forward. And you don't want to slouch, but you do not want to lean forward. What you want to do is you want to find a chair that is comfortable to sit on, and you want to have it support your back, and you want your back to be relaxed. You want to be, and you want your shoulders to be back, and you never want to shove them back because that will hurt the top of your back. It will squish your muscles together. What you want to do is, if you catch them sliding forward, which is really bad, roll them back like that. You might have seen me do that. I do that a lot because I keep noticing I'm slouching.
So we've talked about how we're sitting, our posture, and all of that. One of the big things I think too is your actual, table itself. For example, a friend of mine uses the iPad Pro, but the mistake he was making was drawing it on a flat surface. So that's beginning to cause strain on his back. And the way he solved that was to create something that allowed him to incline it at a tilt. I always have my table itself at a tilt. Not only does it enable me to prevent distortion on my drawing because it's at an angle where I can see it, but it prevents me from putting strain on my back. So, Allie, we can start with you. This may go slow or fast, depending on how much experience you guys have all had, but tell us about your actual view, table itself that you work or monitor. How do you adjust it to make it ergonomically work for you?
I also work on an iPad. It's funny, I'm actually using my husband's computer right now, and I keep trying to tap the screen, and I'm like, oh, wait, computer, because it's been a while since I've used one. And the reason I switched to the iPad for my writing is because I'm a very tactile person, and I have a hard time editing just on a writing software, and I like to have my pencil in my hand and be scribbling like this. And so I decided to try out an iPad to see how that worked, and it worked great on me. And one of the things that I find I have to do is, because like I said, I sit on a couch. I spent 6 months out of the year last year with my feet elevated on the couch, so I had to recline. And then that was really bad on my neck, trying to figure out how to position the screen and the keyboard and everything so that I wasn't injuring other parts of me while I was trying to recover. And I find that I have to shift a lot. I can't sit in the same place. I get up, I stretch, and I walk around. And again, since I'm potty training my kid right now, we have a timer that goes off every 30 minutes, and every 30 minutes I'm up and walking around and, doing those things, because I feel like otherwise I would hurt myself in other places. And I do notice some issues with my neck. And now that I'm no longer basically couch bound anymore, I found myself working at the kitchen table a lot more, which is a lot better suited. Like the screen's up a little bit, or I will stack it on something so that it's up a little higher. And I find that I have to take breaks from my computer, which sometimes is hard because you want to sit and be writing for 4 to 8 hours straight or whatever, and physically I can't do that. And I'm still fairly young, and I've had compartment syndrome since I was a teenager. And it's something that has been affecting me a lot. And my husband, he has chronic back pain too. We call ourselves old souls, and now our bodies are trying to be old too. because he injured his back at 21 years old and has been dealing with that every single day, going to the chiropractor, trying to take care of it. And he finally is putting aside the money and is getting a new office chair for himself because he felt the pain coming back. Like you said, he was what you sit in, how you're sitting in it is so important. And so the best way that I found for me as someone who cannot work I cannot work at a standing desk. And I mean, I finally hit a point to where I no longer have to wear like my special shoes just to walk around the house. Because that's where I was pretty much all of last year, was I had to wear my shoes if I wanted to go anywhere, even just from, you know, the table in the family room to the kitchen. Just getting up from the kitchen table to go to the fridge to get my son, you know, some food or milk or whatever that he wanted. I had to wear my shoes constantly because it was giving me the support I needed. And now I'm recovering to a point to where I'm more normal, to where I can handle walking around in bare feet again. And so I find the best thing for me specifically is shifting a lot. I switch seats on the couch. I switch positions. I will switch to the table. I will, I move around, and sometimes I'm working outside, not right now because it's snowing, but I was, we'll go outside, spring's right around the corner, and we will be living out in our backyard because I have a kid and 2 dogs. And so I will have to find different positions outside. Sometimes I'll just lay down a blanket and I'll, lay like this and switch. And I have to give myself 15-minute breaks. And sometimes I also find that my mind works better when I do 15, 20-minute writing shifts and then give myself 5 minutes off to sit and scroll through, Twitter or whatever, checking with my writing group. And that's just what works for me. And that doesn't work for everyone, but I've had to adapt.
So, Emily, do you do anything with your monitor to make it more ergonomically work for you?
Yeah, as I mentioned, it's up actually higher than my head, just by a little bit. But it's also on an arm that can swing around. I can move it closer. I can move it further away, depending on what I need. I need to move it closer if I'm sitting down. I need to push it further away if I'm walking, I've noticed. It's also useful if I have a friend over or my daughter or my husband, sitting on the couch and I'm watching something with them. I can adjust my monitor so that it's like slightly angled so we can both see it equally well, that sort of thing. The desk I went with, by the way, is Uplift Desk, and it's custom made, and it cost me $1,000. That's about what it usually costs. It ranges from anywhere from like $500 to about $1,500. It was very expensive, but it was worth it because when it comes to your health, you should get the best thing for your health that you can afford, not the cheapest thing.
Right.
Health is too important to prioritize cheapness over what you actually need.
That's a great.
Yeah, that's. I would say
if you're not physically healthy, you cannot create.
It's true. It's true. It's a false economy. If you prioritize something, money over health, you're making yourself less capable of making money. So, the opportunity cost of poor health is much more expensive than the direct cost of getting what you need.
That's
I also want to recommend at the chiropractor, he had like this vibrating thing that was really, really great for my very sore neck and back. So he recommended I get this, which is like a vibrating massager. It's made by Flexonic. There are tons of them. This one actually has like different removable things. Anyway, this was what I discovered was fantastic for my neck when it was in a lot of pain. It's also fantastic for my wrists and hands, anywhere that I've got muscle pain. Actually, menstrual cramps. It's really good to use on my abdomen when I have menstrual cramps. It eases them because that comes from the muscles being really tight. Also, specifically, I think the way I've used it most is when I'm trying to exercise and I am out of shape, which happens after every pregnancy. I have 6 kids. My feet hurt. My feet are killing me after an hour of exercise if I've been on bed rest. So I take off my shoes and my socks, run this along the soles of my feet, sometimes for like 10 minutes, sometimes it can take an hour, but you know what? Afterwards, the muscle pain is gone. Hi, gorgeous. This is my oldest. She's 10. Her name is Wednesday. She's named after a character in the Addams Family. We're weird. I use this on the soles of my feet and the muscle pain's gone. I can exercise. Usually I can get back on my treadmill for another hour or two. Like an hour. If an hour was all I could handle before, I can handle another hour. If 4 hours was what I could handle before, I can handle another 4 hours. It is fantastic for exercise because if your muscles are stiff or in pain from exercise, it can fix that too. So yeah, I highly recommend getting some kind of vibrating massage thing on Amazon. Like I said, Flexonic is FLEXX. Sonic is the brand I found. It's really good for muscle pain, including any muscle pain that comes from poor ergonomics. And that helps prevent nerve damage. Go on.
So standing desks solve the majority of your problems, or do you do some additional things like Emily and Allie do to make things more, I guess, bearable for you physically?
Oh, I was going to mention when you were talking about the angled iPad, I now do that with my analog things. I write in my journal by hand every night. I write a page every night because I am extremely obsessive and I must have things match. So I write the same number of lines every night. And I used to keep it on my lap, which meant neck, angled, down. Now I got one of those like metal folding table things, that goes on your lap, like a breakfast in bed tray sort of thing. Have that, put a pillow on it so that it's slightly at an angle. And then I can write by hand on it and it's much more comfortable. And for my neck, it's not less comfortable for my hand. Hand on lap is very comfortable, but it is very much better for my neck. I'm now doing the same thing with my sketchbook when I'm working on my comics, and that helps a lot. Also, if I find myself looking down too much for some reason, I take a minute to do this, stretch everything back out again. Back pain. I have found that if my lower back hurts, it either means I have been leaning back too much or leaning forward too much. Usually it's forward too much. Stretch your back the opposite way and hold the stretch. So for me, that usually means, my back, stretch, stick my rear end out as far as I can go, stick my shoulders out as far back as they can go, and just sort of hold that, stretch the middle of the back. And that I have to do that if I have been in a lean forward position, which is true if I sit in a recliner or one of those like movie theater seats that like reclines, or if I prop myself up on pillows because I feel like sitting in a reclining position. I always wind up giving myself back pain, and I always have to do that. I have to stretch my back, rear end, shoulders back, hold a stretch. If I don't do that, I'll be in pain for days. If I do that, the pain goes away within about a minute. And I'm good, and I'm fine.
So, Troy,
1 minute saves you how many days of pain?
It is Troy, 1 minute of knowing the right thing to do.
In terms of what works for you besides the standing desk, in terms of making things more bearable for you physically? We're missing your audio.
Sorry about that. So I do a few different things. When I have a few different monitors, actually, and I have a monitor that's up, it's portrait instead of landscape, that I use for editing. That's off to one side. And so that enables me to basically do two things at once without moving my head a whole lot, as far as my neck a whole lot and straining things. I also have timers set for basically, I could sit and write for 4 to 6 hours straight, but that's not great for me. And I'm probably older other than Mike. Mike and I are probably closer to the same age. I may be a little younger than Mike. I don't know, but obviously, and I've been doing this for years. So obviously I have habits that sometimes I have to break. And so a standing desk makes me do that. I stand for a certain amount of time. I sit for a certain amount of time. I have a footrest that you can move up and down that has little massagers on it that helps. And exercise. Again, I have a German Shepherd, a 95-pound German Shepherd. If you don't know anything about German Shepherds, the first word in their name is German. And so German Shepherds are very German. They like a routine. So if you want to take a walk every day, get a German Shepherd, take them for a walk the same time of day, like 5 days in a row. You will never miss another walk again. I mean, German Shepherd, well, if you do, you will pay the price for that. Your German Shepherd will let you know his displeasure in various different ways. That is one way. I mean, getting a dog is a really simple thing of like, you have to walk your dog around the neighborhood. But what that does, it disciplines me that a certain time of day, I get up from my desk, I get a leash, I walk around the neighborhood at least a mile, if not 2, so that when my German Shepherd comes back, he will leave me alone to let me work out the rest of my day. But it's an hourly thing. Every hour you stand up, take at least a few minute break, go get some tea, drinking while you're writing. It is so easy to run out of water and just keep plowing ahead anyway and just dehydrate the crap out of yourself, which is absolutely horrible. But like this weekend, I'm drinking tea from one of my mugs that one of my clients sent me. It says, "I'm the editor, that's why." And so for some reason, they feel like I'm their boss. But so drinking tea when I'm doing a weekend like this, because then I can keep my throat in good shape. If I'm doing, 11 presentations in 3 days, at some point I'm going to lose my voice if I don't, do something about that. So I think there's a lot of things. I think one of the main things is just being conscious of your health. Whatever tools you need to use, whatever exercise you need to do. I have a pair of weights behind me. I'll pick them up, lift them up a few times, when I get up for the hour, whatever it is, do a few push-ups, whatever it is that works for you. But I think that ergonomics is more than just about your space as far as like the physical aspect of your space. I mean, I have my monitor a certain distance. Having a monitor arm is very smart. I have it at a distance that then I told my eye doctor what distance I needed these glasses to work at. I'm like, this is how far my monitor is from my eyes. He says, okay, he does a formula, writes your prescription, right? And they work. But it's
Very
also
cool.
about the atmosphere that you work in and what you put. I have art all over my office. Why do I have art? You can see some of it behind me. Why do I have art all over my office? Because it's a certain amount of a feeling that you get when you're in your office. And that's about ergonomics too. If you feel business-like, if you feel like you're working, you will sit up straighter. You will work differently. Your brain, it will affect the way your brain works differently. The right music is a part of ergonomics too. And what works for you. Now, what works for me may not work for you. Probably, I can't imagine that Mike streams a lot of Alice in Chains while he's doing his art. But I do. Okay, because the lyrics and stuff, that doesn't necessarily bother me, but that creates an atmosphere for me. And if I need to shut out the world, I had literally put these headphones on. Because if I put them on, they're not active noise canceling, but I pretty much can't hear the rest of the world around me because they're a very good monitor headphone, right? And you don't have to spend a fortune on these things to get it. My desk, I got it on sale for $500. $1,000 isn't unreasonable to spend on a standing desk at all, but $500 is better if you can find one on sale, or you can get whatever you can afford. And there's ways you can even make one. There's bunches of things that you can do. But again, monitor arms, exactly what you're talking about. So you can move it up, so you can move it further away or move it closer. That type of thing. I have my laptop on one side and I move it closer or further, depending upon what I'm doing and how I need that, and whether I'm standing, whether I'm sitting, those different types of things. So I think it's just really important that you have a variety of things in your space, but that you conscientiously get up and move. Set timers. Set timers. When the timer goes off, you get up, you set another timer for 7 minutes, and you don't sit back down till that 7 minutes is up. That 7 minutes can either seem short or long to you initially, but once you get into a habit, it feels really good to do stuff like that. And it's just better for your body overall. So even though you can sit for hours at a time, don't. Because
Unless
it's
you
just
get
not good.
put on bed rest.
Unless you get put on bed rest. My daughter is on bed rest right now, which is, I feel for her. She's in the, anyway, that's a long story. But
I think you're all making some important points, especially that ergonomics is more than just your space. Because in the research I did for this panel, we're talking about taking breaks. We're talking about exercise. I go to the gym in the morning. I have a friend who does a full-time illustration. He breaks up his day going to the gym, lifting weights. Tremendous rejuvenation for him, especially if he's working a long day. And we're probably going to go in a couple minutes, pretty shortly here, to see if there are any questions. But does anyone want to add to that really quick? Breaks. Emily, go ahead.
Yeah, I keep water around my desk too, and I'm walking on a treadmill. I love fizzy water, flavored fizzy water, so I usually have several cans of that on my desk because while I'm walking, I don't even have to get off my treadmill. Yeah, see, great. Just have it sitting there, and it's covered so it's not going to spill because I'm clumsy and I knock things over if it's just an open cup. So I like having it sealed. But yeah, have water just sitting there. Because if you start to feel a little thirsty, what you want is for your lazy brain to not override your thirsty brain. Because if you have to physically get up and go get water, your lazy brain will say, I'm good for another 10 minutes. 2 hours later, I'm still thirsty. I'm good for another 10 minutes. Don't do that. Just keep water on your desk.
I think 6 water bottles. I think I have 6 water bottles scattered throughout my house in the various rooms that I frequent, because I have a kid who then he shares with me and he wanders off with it. And so if he wanders off with it, I need to have a spare. So every morning or every night before I go to bed, I fill up all my water bottles because I do that. I hit the end of the day and I'm like, I have not had any water in 6 hours. And mentally I'm fuzzy and I find myself tired and like wanting to take a nap because I'm just dehydrated because because I was like, oh, I'll get that in a minute. I'm doing, and yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
I was also going to mention.
I'll do one more commercial. My commercial is for DOS keyboards. DOS keyboards. Your keyboard is extremely important, and one that works for you, that has a good feel, that's ergonomic, and DOS keyboards happen to work really well for me. I will tell you before you look up their website that they are not cheap, but I have one. My wife saw it and said, I don't know about that keyboard, and then bought one after she typed on mine for a little bit. So I do a commercial for keyboards.
I use Logitech keyboards.
Yeah, Logitech makes some decent keyboards, and there's several ergonomic styles you can get to. Some of them work well for certain people, some of them don't. Go to an office supply store and try them out before you buy one. I mean, otherwise you can spend a lot of money and have a drawer full of keyboards, which is fascinating, but not really your budget. But that's my commercial. My commercial is for keyboards and mice as well. Pay attention to the way your hands feel when you're using those things. It will save you lots of pain.
Emily, I know you have a comment there. If you could just
I hadn't finished what I was saying. Can I finish what I was saying?
Sorry.
So one of the things I wanted to say before, and that this does lead into it, is you said, you can get cheaper than the most expensive. Totally agree. Get the best thing, not the most expensive thing. They're very often not the same thing. For me, a $10 Logitech keyboard is exactly what works for me. I do not need a $200 keyboard. If you need a $200 keyboard, get it. If a $10 keyboard works just as well, get that, for crying out loud. What I was saying about water, I try to make the barrier to entry to do something healthy really, really, really low. I try to make it more inconvenient to not do the healthy thing. So that's why I have a desk treadmill. It is more inconvenient to not walk because standing on it is uncomfortable. Whereas walking is comfortable. It is also, if I keep candy on my desk, the barrier to entry to eating candy is low. So I have to put candy on the top shelf, and then I put healthy food on the bottom shelf because it is more convenient to get the healthy food. And if I really want to encourage myself to eat something healthy, then I will put it on my desk, because when I get hungry and I want to snack, well, it's sitting there. I guess I'll eat that bowl of salad, so this applies for weight loss. It also applies for many things. Set yourself up for success by making the barrier to entry really, 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 really low for healthy things and really, 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 really high for unhealthy things. Make it convenient to do the things you want to do and inconvenient to do the things you don't want to do. There was also one other thing I wanted to say, which is I have noticed before I got my desk treadmill that if I started feeling writer's block, after a while I'd start feeling kind of headachy, tired, achy, I'd start getting writer's block. If I went for a walk, it would get my brain working again. There's something about walking that really helps with that. When I got my desk treadmill, I discovered that I wasn't getting writer's block in the first place. Because if I write while I'm walking, it actually prevents that state from happening at all. Up until the point that I'm about ready to go to bed after 8 hours, my brain's scrambled. I'm mentally more tired than I am physically tired. But that's just the human condition. But yeah, the desk treadmill gives me the stamina to write far more. It makes me more prolific, and it makes my words better. And I need fewer drafts to get a decent story written. This may not be true for everyone, but it's certainly true for me. So I would highly recommend trying it if a desk treadmill sounds appealing to you.
Well, it sounds like it's really working for you in terms of your creativity too, Emily. I'm first time moderating here in this format. They said they were going to give us verbal questions. Is that right?
Yes.
Producer, have a question for us for the audience?
That is right. I do have some audience questions for you. So the first one is a question about what you can do if you don't have a choice of your chair or table. Jay Gosling says, if you're dealing with static furniture as I am, no choice right now in my chair or table, how do you adjust how you sit and you work?
Allie, we can start with you.
I don't have a choice in where I get to work because I have to, be with my kid. So that's when I do the shifting positions, making sure that if I'm in an odd position, I am not staying in an odd position to avoid unnecessary strain. I often find myself leaning like this when I'm writing, and I have to shift because I will, do damage all down my arm and my shoulder, even up into my neck. So I just have to, I have to shift every 15 minutes or less, so that I am avoiding unnecessary pain.
Emily, anything to add to that yourself?
If you don't have all the customization available and you've stuck with whatever you've got, well, you just adjust things as much as you can. If you're stuck with this monitor and you can't put it on a crane, but it's too low down, get a phone book, or if those don't exist anymore, a dictionary, or if those don't exist anymore, some book you bought on a whim that it wasn't very good and you're not going to reread, or that box from Amazon, tape it up well, get something to put the monitor on. Also, if you use a laptop, get a plug-in keyboard because that screen is too low for your neck, and that keyboard
or the keyboard's too high.
No matter what you do, if it is going to be bad for both your neck and your hands, get a plug-in keyboard. If you have to sit down, plug it in, put the keyboard on your lap, or put it somewhere lower down, at least somewhere that feels right, and lift that laptop up, not desk level, lift it up to about head level. It should be about chin level, so that your head is straight, not doing this. That's really, really important. Laptops have actually been a really bad problem for a lot of people.
I do want to make a quick plug for my husband who has chronic back pain. He actually got this off the recommendation of his chiropractor. Because this is what his chiropractor used before doing the adjustments. It's called a high Dow TENS unit. And basically what it does is it's muscle stimulation. It's electromagnetic stimulation onto your back. It has these little, like you get like the little nodes that you get to stick on your muscles, and then you can change all the settings and how hard or how soft it goes. And my husband will have to use that. And that's when he realized he needed to get a better chair, is because he had to start using it more frequently. But he doesn't have a choice. He has to, he has to work at a desk, and I don't think he gets up and moves around enough. And so that's one of the things he's done to help. And he's found that if he uses that, he only has to use it maybe once a week if he catches it early enough. Otherwise, he has to dedicate a lot more time to using it, to stimulate the muscles, to help because he's got like pinched nerves and things like that, and it has thrown off his gait. So even for him, a standing desk isn't going to help because his hips are misaligned, and this is one of the ways that he fixes his stance.
Troy, do you have anything to add to the question? Quick comment.
Say quick comment. Like when I first started out, I was in a closet that was under a set of stairs with a kitchen chair. So it took me a while to build up to this setup as a professional writer, and I used pillows for the chair, different kind of pillows and stuff like that till I found comfortable positions. And then for the desk, I used boxes and stuff to move my keyboard or my monitor up to where that worked best, because there was kind of a fixed table in that particular area. I was using kind of a shelf thing. And it wasn't terribly comfortable, but I was able to improvise with some of the things that I had. I would look at some of the posture diagrams online and get as close to that as you can with the materials you have at hand until you have choices, until your money gives you choices. But I also say save up money so you can do those things.